Sam Yencho, and I'm going to be teaching you some information, treatment, and so forth about food allergies. So first things first, you should know the 8 most common food allergies. So basically, pretty much any food can be an allergen that can cause severe reaction. However, most are delegated to these 8 food allergens. They're comprised of milk, egg, fish, shellfish, peanuts, tree nuts, soy, wheat, and that's it. So basically, everybody that has a food allergy is allergic to some food, but most of them are these 8. So, on that note, these 8 are the only 8 that are required to be listed on food ingredient labels. Speaking of food ingredient labels, I got one right here. So, I'm going to show you guys. Usually they're listed right near the nutrition facts on any packaging of food. So, right here, as you can see, we have all of the ingredients, and at the top, it's the more it's contained, the more it contains of it, the higher it is in the ingredients list, and it goes down in order of amount it contains. But then below, it usually has a section saying either allergen information or contains, and it says contains of the most common allergens if any of these ingredients contain it, and that says stuff like may contain or produced in a facility. Now, these are important to different people who are different amounts of allergic to different foods. For example, some people are airborne allergic to foods such as peanuts. And this is just an example of food. You can be airborne allergic to different foods. Some people can touch it. Some people can't touch it. Some people can only not ingest the food. Some people can't touch it or even smell it or anything. It's really all up to the person. That's why it matters if it was made in a facility. If it's airborne allergic, you can cross-contaminate it. However, I have to get cross-contamination at a later point because it doesn't really work with my segue. Speaking of my segue, I'm just going to tell you what food allergy is. So, everybody has an immune system. This immune system attacks with antibodies stuff like toxins that your body doesn't like having in it. However, some people with food allergies see their allergens, usually the 8 most common that I've already listed, as toxins. So what they do is they attack it with these antibodies. Now, this causes anaphylaxis. Anaphylaxis is this reaction, and it can be mild. It can cause stuff like basic swelling, but usually it's more severe. And this varies on a case-by-case basis. The same person doesn't inherently have the same reaction each time. However, more severe cases have lots of swelling, itching, they can look pale, thoughts and feelings of impending doom, and in bad cases, severe cases, death, usually from suffocation from a swelling in the throat. Usually, the best way to see if somebody's having an allergic reaction is to see if they have hives. They can be on the back, they can be on the neck, they can be on the face, but hives don't always indicate a food allergy. They can mean seasonal allergy, which are generally not as severe. Like, pollen isn't going to give you anaphylaxis like a food is. However, bee stings are generally an exception to the rule. They act like food allergies because of the toxin in the stinger. Anyway, here, next, compared to intolerances. Now, most people think that a food allergy and intolerance is pretty much the same thing. Well, they're caused by the same things generally, like milk and lactose. However, the very thing that happens during it is different. For example, food allergies are caused by a reaction to the immune system, and intolerances are caused by other stuff that doesn't directly involve the immune system. But the more obvious and important difference is that intolerances cause, at worst, severe irritation in the bowels and stomach and stuff, whereas food allergies can cause, at worst, stuff like hives and death, which is not good. Then again, neither of them are good, but there's a significant difference in mainly severity. Now, back to cross-contamination. Now, one thing to note is that from pretty much anyone with a food allergy, as long as you have a little bit, it doesn't matter how much of the food you have once you trigger a reaction. It's not going to get worse if you've had a significant more amount of food. Like, if you have a little dabble of something, it's not going to be any different than if you have a whole container of it. Let's take this analogy to yogurt for dairy allergies, because yogurt has dairy in it. Now, if you have a whole tub of yogurt, that's going to be the same as having, generally going to be the same as if you have, a little tiny bit of it. Here's where we talk about cross-contamination. Let's say you're in an apple factory. This apple factory also makes yogurts. Don't ask me why. It's not the point. So, let's say this yogurt touches the apple and gets a little bit on it. That means if somebody who's allergic to dairy eats this apple, they could die even, which is really bad. So this is why you got to be so careful when handling food that you can't let two things even have a danger of being touched, like not on the same shelf or anything, because this could cause stuff like death in a person and they wouldn't even know. And this is why you got to read even may be contained in a facility, maybe made in a facility of the thing in the contained statement of a food allergy label. Now, we're going to talk about some of the risk factors for food allergies and how they develop. Now, by that I mean heredity. Now, here's the thing. There's no direct link between heredity and food allergies. Both of somebody's parents can have food allergies and the kids don't. Kids can have food allergies, parents don't. It's not dependent on, there's no direct genetic link between food allergies that's hereditary, as far as we humans know right now. However, there are likely, scientists think, risk factors that are carried from parents to kid offspring. We don't really know what they are, and by we I mean scientific community, but they probably exist. Great. Now, how do they develop? Do they go away? All great questions. Let's answer them now. So, people are never really born with a food allergy because it develops as you're exposed to it a few times. However, for quite a few babies, they develop very, very quickly, like after the first couple times of having something like dairy or peanuts. However, this isn't always the case. People can develop it late into their teens, into their 30s, into old age even. It just depends on when your body feels like it's developing it. It's not something we can control, as far as we know. Now, on a lighter note, let's talk about getting over it. And by getting over it, I mean outgrowing food allergies. That's the right term. This can happen at an early age, like the age of 2, or at a late age, like the age of 40. Most people outgrow food allergies by the age of 16. However, this is by no means always the case. Now, this means that you can develop or outgrow a food allergy pretty much any point in your life. And you can't really control it, at least with what we know so far about current biotechnology in terms of this. Now, let's talk about the exciting stuff. And by exciting stuff, I mean anaphylaxis, how to treat it, it's the biggest thing, how to prevent it. And first, how to prevent it, we've already talked about that. You just read ingredient labels thoroughly. You make sure you know what of the allergens you are allergic to, even if they're not the most common. And most of all, most significantly, you know what things contain your allergen, and you read for your ingredient labels to see if it's safe for you to ingest. Now for treatment. So first things first, if you think somebody's having an allergic reaction, it's better to treat them and then turns out you didn't need to than to not treat them and it turns out you did. You always better safe than sorry in these cases, because none of this stuff has any permanent downsides. No matter what, it's always safer to just give it if you think somebody's having an allergic reaction, because at some point it'll become too late, so you always need to be safe with this. So as for the treatment itself, the first thing you want to do is be calm. If somebody goes into anaphylactic shock, then this becomes an even worse medical emergency. And even if you take the EpiPen, it's not going to totally fix it. You need to get them to a hospital. This is why you want to remain calm the whole time, and that's the best way of keeping the patient calm. Because the patient needs to be calm. That means you staying calm is the best way of keeping that. You just have a calm demeanor the whole time. Now, for the main form of treatment, we have, most of you probably already heard of this, EpiPens. So first, let's start with the most common form of EpiPen on the market today. They're called EpiPens, and I have a trainer here, and I have normal, real working ones. However, to demonstrate them, I have my brother here as a test patient, as an example. All right, and I brought my brother here to be an assistant to show you how to treat anaphylaxis. So, let's say he's allergic to peanuts, and he just had some peanut butter. His mouth is swelling, his eyes are swelling, his scalp is all itchy, and he's having thoughts of impending doom. Say like, I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna die.
Oh no, he's gonna die. Not if we can help it. The biggest thing is he's got hives all over his back and neck. And we know that. I'm pretty sure he's having anaphylaxis. Like, really sure. So, I'm going to give him the EpiPen. First, we've got the normal EpiPens. These ones are the most commonly available and seen on the market. These are real EpiPens. They're more colorful. They have instructions on them, and as you can see here, all EpiPens have instructions on the back. They tell you what to do. The most important one is that you always call 911 at the end. And this is because even if you don't think it happened, even if you're the calmest person in the world, they might be going into anaphylactic shock, or the EpiPen might have missed it. That's why you call 911, always. Get a medical professional. Now, we're going to inject him to save his life. First, it says you pull off the blue cap. It's not always blue, but you pull off the cap. Then, you got to stab him in the thigh, upper thigh, with the needle end. It says for 10 seconds here, so I'll show you like this. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10. Alright, next, what you want to do is give antihistamines. It helps the swelling go down and stuff before the medical professionals show up. But antihistamines will not fix the problem in and of itself. Think of an allergic reaction like a train barreling down the rails. Now, an antihistamine might set it back a little, but it will not, I don't want to say never, it's always a possibility, but generally speaking, it will not stop the train that is an allergic reaction. That's the job of the EpiPen. EpiPen does that most of the time, and then the antihistamines can push it back after that. But what you want to do is give the EpiPen. Now, let's just see another one. This one is not a trainer, I don't have a trainer for this kind, of the generic brand. Same thing, it's got a little casing. Once you take it out, it's got a blue cap and a black tip, but it still does the same thing. Instructions on the front, everything. Yeah, see, instructions up front, they're written differently, but they say the same thing. Now, what you want to know next, what we want to show next is, in my opinion, the cooler kind, the AviQ. The AviQ even talks to you. Now this is the real one. It's colorful, doesn't say trainer on it. This one has the word trainer on it. It's black, it's gray, black. It's also a bit lighter, but it's not what I wouldn't go off of the weight to tell if it's a trainer. You always look for the word trainer. And they talk to you. I'm going to show you what it looks like in action, because this is a trainer and it's safe to use on a person even if they're not having allergic reaction. Technically, the normal one is safe to use too, but generally you don't want to use it if they're not, if there's no reason why they'd be having an allergic reaction. So, he's back in anaphylaxis again. He just is. He had peanut while we were talking. Yeah. So, here we go.
This trainer contains no needle or drug and is for training purposes only. Do not use this trainer during an allergic emergency. If you are ready to use, pull red safety guard down and off of this trainer. Place black end against outer thigh. Then push firmly until you hear a click and hiss sound and hold in place for 2 seconds. 2, 1. Training complete.
And then
Trainer may be reused for
you put it back away.
Replace
Because it's a trainer, you can put it all back. Can't do that with the real thing. You always real EpiPens are one-time use. You dispose of them after. So, after that, you give them antihistamines, and the most important thing is keep them calm, and you wait for the proper medical professionals to arrive. And that's everything. That's as much as I can teach you at the moment. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully this information was enough to save a life. Even one life is plenty to make this worth it. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great day.